Codes, and this is my first Node project stream. I'll be streaming for about half an hour today, or in this session, and then you should expect me streaming on later this afternoon. Okay, so last time we were working on our first set of business logic. We were I was struggling with trying to do DDD and doing it very poorly, as in with not test first. And I was struggling with how to structure my code. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned since then is the fact that structuring your code is one of those things that there's many ways to do wrong, but that there's a bunch of ways to do it right. So it's and I was kind of like, what is the right way to structure my code? Where does this go? I don't know. So I'm just going to put it here for now, and then I'll figure that out, which is probably not necessarily the right thing to do, to be quite honest. Okay, so, and I was also working on a weird testing error. So what we're going to do this session is we're going to do some code cleanup, and then we are going to move things around, get things structured, and kind of work on our tests and kind of set up so that we can do our tests. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and let's do this thing. I was also cleaning up my stuff. Okay, great. So let's open up here. I have one commit, which is literally just a thing. Okay, so remember that random bug that was happening when we ran npm test? Well, that random bug happened to be caused by something in my models, I think. No, it was in client. I guess it wasn't. Maybe it was an app. Who knows? And this is why, the who knows, that is exactly why we need to clean stuff up. Okay, so let's go through actually. Okay, so we've got our server. Looks good. Models. Looks good. Client. This is, okay, kind of messy. But not too bad. I mean, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a comment at the top. So let's address the structuring files first. So this file manipulates DOM. Client side. Okay, great. So let's see here. App. So welcome to. Okay, so app has two sets of things in it. It has connections to the API, and it serves endpoints. So and then there's business logic stuff. So let's say this file serves endpoints and passes to the API. Data to the API. Okay, great. Now we've got some stuff that I wrote that we need to write tests for. That does not belong in here. So let's go with the API is. Aha, here is the code that we need to move to. Because what was happening is this was being run, this commented out code was being run during a test. And since we don't need it to run during a test, it doesn't make sense to run it, So what this does. So this is a layer between the database, the models, and the app slash aka endpoints. And let's say this file is. Okay. So now we've got that saved. Let's create, we need at least 2 different files. We need one for this this mongoose code. It's really MongoDB and Mongoose. And then we also need, so let's say DB. Let's say DB. We'll call it DB for now. And then this file is for all of your MongoDB and Mongoose code. And it's possible that we want something else, we will want this to be placed somewhere else eventually. But I think for now, putting it in its own thing is not a bad idea. Okay, so let's X this out. And that way, because this code can't be tested, is the other thing to note. And so since this code cannot be tested, it's one of those things that it doesn't make sense to have it in a thing that will be tested. Okay, so let's do const mongoose equals require. And then we're gonna say mongoose. Great. And okay, cool, awesome. And that way, and so let's module.exports. I don't know what we're gonna export here. So let's say need to export something. What do we need to export? Okay, great. All right. And this feels a little bit clunky still, but isn't too bad. Okay, let's see here. The only other thing I could think of is that it's possible that since this isn't tested, the MongoDB stuff should be in here. Is about the only thing. Should this be combined with server.server.js? Okay, great. All right, let's do a comment. This is because we don't have a server test, and so that may be like one of those things. Okay, so let's see here. What do we say about this one? File for database models. And then let's save that. And then let's put a comment and say file for the application server. Really simple, maybe not super descriptive, but not too bad. Okay, now let's go back to app. All right, let's take all of this 50 lines of ridiculous, not tested code and create a something. So my question is, what is the name? What name are we doing here? I think that the naming convention is like the biggest. I think we should create a I mean, okay, so what we could do is we could say validation. We could say so we could be super specific and we could say validation and then rename it later to something else. We could also say business logic. We could say let's think on this real quick. Let's kind of commit what we've got before we do anything else. Because apparently we haven't saved DB. No, we haven't saved API. Also, we can, yeah. So let's add. No, I don't want to discard changes. Okay, so adding comments to delineate structure. Splitting of code. Okay, great. That's a commit. So let's say DB came from API. So removing DB code from API and adding code splitting comments. And then, great, and then adding code splitting comments. Okay, let's do this thing. Now, let's go to app again. Okay, so this is validation, but I think this is more than validation. I think let's do a search. Business logic file name. Express. And I'm sure this is okay. So let's see here. Because really what we're doing is we're writing the logic of like what should be, you know, your thing. Why need frameworks, blah, blah, blah. What, another framework? Okay. Seller info service call fails, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This doesn't necessarily seem to tell me what I want. Okay. This wants me to subscribe. Interesting. I'm not sure if I necessarily know. Okay, so they're using OJ Action, which I saw, and it looks like they do index.js, And then let's look at their source, pages, services. Okay, so they break it out like really intensely. I would say application logic. So app logic. Or logic, or... Okay, so let's go with validation for now, since we need to write tests for this thing and actually get this thing to work. So right now, as much as I would like to rename and, you know, all of this other stuff, I think validation is probably going to be your best bet. And that way, when we start like figuring out where this goes, we can just ignore the rest of it. Okay, so let's do this thing. Let's put this in validation. Let's save it. And this code probably doesn't work, is the other thing that is noted. So, well, I think it's super important to like kind of be like, this is the file for your business logic. Rename once it is more than validation. Okay, let's save that. Let's make sure app looks good. Let's save. Let's run a test. And I should probably actually be using -- watch and just paying attention to it. Okay, it looks like it did it. Okay. Control C. Okay, now we've got our test to watch. Let's make sure that... Okay, great. Everything looks like it passes. Okay. And then what we'll need to do is we'll need to rewrite our tests so that this kind of does more. Because right now, this doesn't necessarily... I mean, it just sends a 200. It doesn't necessarily serve anything. It doesn't necessarily, like, you know? So, okay. So, we've got validation. Let's... splitting code into a validation file. Okay, great. Split. Now, let's create a test. Or at least a test file. Validation-test.js. Great. And it fails. Well, the other thing we don't do is we don't... Let's see here. What do we need to export? I don't think we need to export anything right now, because right now we're not importing anything yet. Except then I think validation equals require oh, let me put these in quotes. I don't even know what I'm doing. Okay, great. Okay. Successfully validates code. Meal input. And then we're gonna do a function here, and then here, and then here. And we're gonna do that. Let me open up my Restream chat. Okay. And then we're gonna say it okay, so let's kind of look at what we need these to do. We're gonna say it does something, and then let's create a thing. Let's create a function. Nope. Okay. Oh. Okay. It says I have an unmatched thing. That's that. That's that. That's that. I don't have an unmatched thing. What are you talking about? Oh. There we go. Okay, so let's see. So let's kind of what should it validate? So let's work through the logic of what this should be. Okay, so let's say I don't know anything about the so I should it input, it verifies that input is a string. Is a string. Okay, so let's say here, that's our first test. So our first test, so what we need to do is let's create our first const input is equal to 56. And then so we would expect input. Okay, so let's say here. All right. I'm gonna take a small restroom break, and we'll be back in just a few moments. Okay, I'm back. So, a small amount of space actually super helped. Okay, so const input, it rejects, it errors out if an input is not a string. Okay, const input equals 56, and then we expect blah, we're going to say validation dot to be actually, no. What we want to do is we want to say const result. Right. Const result equals the validation. And then we're going to say input. And then we're going to say const result to contain error. Okay, we're just going to say error here. Nope. We're just going to say error. And we're going to make it a string. Okay. Great. Great. Okay. Welcome to our first test. It fails, but we kind of expected to fail. Okay, so let's write, let's stub out another one. Okay, it errors out, it displays to user, it sends a response if input is less than one character. Less than 2 characters. Great. All right, awesome. Okay, I have to go for now, but you should expect me streaming later on this afternoon. Thank you so much for watching my stream, recorded or otherwise. Have a great day.